It's looking nice in Uptown Charlotte at Bank of America Stadium tonight, but the weather is going to be an impact for Saturday's playoff game. What does that mean for the Panthers? That and more this week on the Carolina Weather Group. I'm James Brereton in Charlotte, North Carolina. That is Frank Strait in Columbia, South Carolina. Welcome to the first episode of the Carolina Weather Group for this new year, 2026. We're so happy to have you along for another year of your weekly show discussing weather, science, and technology from the Carolinas and beyond. Frank, here is a look at Uptown Charlotte, where the Panthers will be taking on the Rams on Saturday. It's pretty nice here in Charlotte. I don't know about you guys down there in Columbia, but we are 20 degrees above normal here in Charlotte today. The temperature right now at this 9 o'clock is 64 degrees. Frank, what month is it?
Well, it's 64 still in Charlotte now.
Yeah.
Really?
According to the weather stem station right here.
54 already here in Columbia. Actually, my house is 51. Wow. It's 54 at the airport. Sand Hills, y'all. It cools off quick here at night.
Well, we had a foggy start, which disrupted our climb towards record-breaking temperatures. But, Frank, we got a big playoff game on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
And the weather is going to be a factor.
How long has it been since the Panthers have played a playoff game?
I think.
Yeah.
Does that sound maybe about right?
Yeah, Cam Newton was still quarterback then, wasn't he?
Yes, and I hear he's going to be there on Saturday. Mm-hmm. Or so I'm told. But let's talk about the weather factor, folks, because the weather is going to be a big player in Saturday's game. So again, wild card, 4:30 p.m., Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte. The Panthers taking on the Rams. And the weather is going to be a factor in this game, and we need to talk about it so that we are prepared not only for its impacts on the field, but also in the stands. If you're going to be heading to the game, there are some critical considerations. But first, let's start with the Panthers. A wet field, of course, could pose challenges to their running game, which we saw a bit of in recent games. Ball security becomes paramount for both teams as fumbles can be an easy game changer in these conditions. We know every play is going to be vital. So rain and wind could be factors on the field. What about the Rams? Is a passing offense might struggle with wind and rain, perhaps. Precision is going to be key for their attack, and weather can throw that right off. Plus, we could look at lightning delays, which not only impact the flow of the game, but also the fan experience. And player readiness during those stoppages are both factors that we need to take into consideration ahead of time. It'll be a real test of adaptability for both teams. Building on safety concerns, a lightning delay can be quite disruptive for player readiness. Teams go through precise warm-up routines, and a sudden break in the game could mess up the momentum and physical conditioning. And it's not just about the wait and see process. It's also about then the process of re-warming up. How cold will they be when they get back on the field? And there's a real risk that muscles could cool down, potentially increasing the chance of injuries post a lightning delay once we get back into that restart. Plus, maintaining focus and pregame rhythm can be tough with prolonged pauses, and we could see 1 or 2 lightning delays. So that could add a whole nother layer to the mental and physical preparedness of the game. Now, maybe you're lucky enough to score tickets to the Bank of America Stadium game on Saturday. Here are the safety protocols that you need to know. A lightning strike within 8 miles triggers an immediate evacuation of the stands. So fans inside the stadium will have to seek shelter in concourses, and they'll have to stay there for at least 30 minutes post a lightning strike. And if we get in a second lightning strike during that 30 minutes, that's right, the clock's reset. They're also going to close the gates. So if you're outside the stadium, you need to think about the safety of yourself. Fans inside the stadium will be able to seek shelter inside the stadium. But if you're outside the stadium, where are you going to go? You're not going to want to just stand out there on the street. That is the worst place. So there are some nearby parking decks. You could go into those areas to seek shelter. Don't go to the top of the parking deck, but you can go to some of those lower levels of the parking decks. And we have a real benefit, a real key critical factor here is that WeatherStem has a station right there at Bank of America Stadium. So we will not only have lovely live pictures like this one right here, but we'll also be a vital tool set in that lightning delay because it has the ability to detect lightning. The hyperlocal data right there from the stadium will give real-time wind, temperature, and that critical lightning data, which hopefully means, Frank, that they'll be able to get people back into the stadium as soon as possible because they will know precisely how long it has been since the last lightning strike.
That's right. And it's important to follow the direction of the stadium staff and the PA announcer when there is a delay when you're inside a stadium to find an appropriate shelter. That might be the bathroom, might be another room that you're directed to go to. If you happen to be in one of those luxury suites, that's probably where you're staying put.
Oh, that would be the best place to be, wouldn't it?
That would be the best place to be, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So the question is, how likely is this to actually happen, that we actually have to deal with thunder and lightning during the game? What do the models say? Let's go to my screen share and find out. Okay, here's the GFS model. Might want to zoom in on that a little bit, James.
You got it.
And this is the 0Z Sunday time step, which is 7 p.m. Saturday our time. On the GFS, it doesn't quite have the leading edge of precipitation to Charlotte yet at that point. So if the GFS model turns out to be right, well, the precipitation and potential thunderstorms don't get to the stadium until maybe after the game's over. Yay! Let's hope that's the way it works out. However,
best guess.
However, everyone's favorite computer model, the Euro, which also has somewhat better accuracy rating, is a little bit faster. This is the 21Z Saturday time step on the European model, which is 4 p.m. Eastern time. That's when the game starts, right, James? And there it is, showing what looks like thunderstorms almost right on top of Uptown Charlotte.
Right on top of us.
So there certainly is that risk for at least some rain and potentially some thunderstorms for the game. So you do want to follow those instructions if you're going to the game, or if you're like a lot of people, you're just going out there to have a good time and doing some tailgating and enjoying the atmosphere. You're not actually going to the game. A lot of people do that, and that's totally fine.
Tailgating, yeah.
Stimulate that economy in Uptown Charlotte. I'm all for it. And have a good time. But keep in mind, you might have to find a suitable shelter to protect yourself from a lightning risk.
Yeah, I think the best thing you could do is to identify that ahead of time as you make your way into the stadium. Let's talk a little bit more about how you can get access to some of the information that WeatherStem provides during the game. So you can go to the WeatherStem website for their Bank of America sensor, Bank of America Stadium sensor. Just Google WeatherStem Bank of America Stadium. You get a webpage. Looks just like this. We're down to 63 degrees now. We've lost a degree since the show has started. But this will give you access to how likely or how recently, a lightning strike is. And also, Frank, I just noticed that they actually have right on their website this really great timekeeper that actually tells you how recent a lightning strike was and will kind of count you down. So as you're keeping track, you'll be able, and in case you forget what the protocols are, they've got them listed right here. So again, about 8 miles is when they're going to probably enact some of their safety protocols there. The nearest lightning strike as of 9 o'clock was 2,000 miles away. So we're okay right now on this Wednesday night. But this is where you could come on your phone or on your computer or whatever it might be during the game to keep up to date. Because as Frank and I have been telling you about, we got that line, we got that cold front, coming through. And you can see on Friday, the Storm Prediction Center has issued a slight risk for portions of the deep south. It doesn't quite make it into the Carolinas on Friday, but by Saturday, that line will be weakening a bit, Frank, and that could be helpful for us. But it's remarkable to think on Friday, what is Friday's date? The 9th of January, we could have a tier 2 out of 5 severe weather outbreak in portions of the south.
Well, it happens every now and then. During these warm spells that we get in wintertime, you get a severe weather outbreak every now and then when you have a good cold front moving in. So no surprise. By the way, jump ahead to the day 4 to 7 outlook.
Let's see if I can
look at day 4, and there's nothing there because predictability is too low. Yeah. But if you read the discussion, the Storm Prediction Center is saying, can't totally rule out damaging wind gust here and there. Maybe there's enough cheer for an isolated tornado in 1 or 2 spots.
A tornado,
so we'll see what they put out for tomorrow's day 3 outlook, but the risk of severe weather in the Carolinas Saturday is not zero. We'll put it that way.
That's right. Yeah. And
it might end up being a marginal risk, and we know how marginal risks tend to go, James.
Carolinas always seems to overachieve on those marginal risks. Those tier 1 out of 5 somehow seem to be sometimes the most remarkable ones we get. The reason we're delineating between the day 3 and the day 4 outlook is because the Storm Prediction Center gives us really good maps for 1, 2, and 3. And then by the time we start to get into day 4, it's a little too far out there in the future, so the probability is kind of low. I mean, you've heard us talk about on the show before, when we are on a map that is 4, 5, 6, 7 days out, our heads are exploding. So the good news is right now we're not on a day 4, but we'll find out tomorrow when we get a day 3 update. That'll be interesting. Jay's watching along with us in this new year. Good evening to you, Jay. And he says, James, did you happen to notice that Greenville-Spartanburg forecast office issued their 4th consecutive dense fog advisory this morning? It was real foggy here. It was foggy, I think, across a lot of the Carolinas, and that kind of really slowed down our momentum towards trying to topple some of these high temperatures that we were seeing with temperatures 20-ish degrees above average. Crazy.
Yes, and it's been foggy down here in Columbia as well, although this morning it was more low clouds than fog. I think it was kind of foggy at the immediate start of the day, but it lifted pretty quick. But low clouds held on until like 11 a.m. around here, I think. So
crazy stuff to be thinking about, how warm it has been this week, because it's not always this warm to start off January. And you only have to look back 30 years to the grand year of 1996 to see an example of that, when we had what we now refer to lovingly as the Great Blizzard of 1996. There it is, with snow falling from the Carolinas through D.C. into New York. And, Frank, we saw upwards of 4 inches here in Charlotte and portions of Raleigh, Greensboro, maybe up to 10, but the mountains got packed in with maybe over 20 inches of snow. I mean, those are cute colors on the map, but that scale over there really starts to push the 20 to 30 inch mark by the time you make your way into the higher elevations.
Yes, I did. And I've got the list on my screen share, James, of maximum snow totals for January 6th and 7th of 1996. Highest for those 2 days, 24 inches in Ashe County, a place I've never heard of before, Trensu. Am I pronouncing that correctly? I hope I am.
I mean, your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah. Brevard had 19 inches. Mount Mitchell, 18. Blowing Rock, 17. There was some higher totals around Asheville, which is where I was living at the time. 11.5 inches in Swannanoa. That's close to where I was living at the time. That's the same that Greensboro got. Asheville Airport had 10.9. Hendersonville, 9. We'll scroll down the list a little bit. Grandfather Mountain, surprisingly, only had 7. I imagine there was enough wind to blow some snow off the mountain to get the snow total that low, considering what else was happening in the area. 2.1 for Charlotte Douglas Airport.
Charlotte's a big place, though, just because the airport only got 2.
Yeah. Some other places got more, I'm sure.
That's right.
Let's see how South Carolina did. South Carolina, the winner was Jocassee, which does tend to be a high roller when it comes to snowstorms in the Carolinas. They had 10.1. I don't see... Oh, there's Caesar's Head. Caesar's Head only had 2, which is also a little surprising.
Quite the cutoff there.
Yeah, Caesar's Head only 2. That's something. Also Winneconne, Cali, Walhalla, and Salem, 7 and 6. 4.7 at GSP Airport. Winthrop and Rock Hill, 2 inches. And trailed off Trace only at the Columbia Metro Airport from the 1996 storm. Brings back memories, James.
It does, which brings us, ladies and gentlemen, to...
Now it's time for story time with Frank.
Yes, story time with Frank. Frank,
do I have a story to tell about the 1996 storm? I was living in Asheville, had not yet started at UNCA yet. That came a year later. I just moved to Asheville, and this is the first good snowstorm we got since we moved up there. And I decided to go sledding with my son, who was 5 years old at the time. And not only was it snowing hard during the storm, it was also 13 degrees, if I remember correctly, and windy too. So it was cold, but he was still enthusiastic until we got about halfway to the sled hill, and then he realized how cold it is, and said, "This is not really fun, Dad. It's too cold. Can we go home?" "No, son, we're going sledding for a while." So we went sledding, and once we finally got to the hill and actually got moving pretty good and had a little bit of fun with it, he was enjoying that until about the third time we got to the bottom of the sled hill. And he realized it had been warm leading up to this, so the ground was warm. So underneath the snow, there was some ice, and in some places the ice was exposed. And under that was, I don't know, maybe a quarter inch of liquid.
Oh,
But my son thought that we were on top of a 20-foot deep frozen pond, and he was afraid the ice was going to break and we were going to fall in. I'm like, kid, there's that water is only like a quarter inch deep under this ice, and the ice is really thick anyway. We're going to be fine. It's fine. Stop worrying. No, he was panicked. I mean, he was really scared about this. I'm like, okay, fine. We'll go back to the top of the hill. We were to go down again. He's like, "No, I don't want to. We're going to fall in the water. The ice is going to break and we'll fall in the water."
I mean, who could blame him, right?
Right. So there was not much sledding because he was literally starting to cry over it, and it was kind of too cold for him anyway, even though we had him really bundled up. So it was just me and him. So we took him back home and got warmed up again. And so that's my story of the 1996 blizzard, which it wasn't really a blizzard in Asheville. It was windy, but it wasn't blizzard windy. But it certainly was cold, and wind chills were not pleasant to be out in. And my son cried about having to sled down a hill.
Well, it probably brings up a good time to define what is a blizzard, right? Because we kind of just throw that term around, but it's got an actual definition in the weather dictionary.
Yes, indeed. To qualify as a blizzard, you have to have heavy snow causing at least, no greater than 1/4 mile visibility, and that has to last for 3 hours. In addition, while that's going on, there has to be winds sustained at 35 miles an hour or frequently gusting to 35 miles an hour for that to be going on at the same time for at least 3 hours. So that is how you define a blizzard. That's happened a few times in North Carolina's history. 1993 was an example. How many times it happened in South Carolina's history? I've actually looked this up in my day job duties, and once that I could find in one spot, Florence Regional Airport during the 1973 snowstorm, the one that caused South Carolina's state record snowfall of 24 inches. I found that there was winds gusting to at least 35 miles an hour and heavy snow with visibility a quarter mile or less for at least 3 hours during that storm. So that would be the one blizzard on record in South Carolina's history. There may have been more before we had a good observation network, but that's the only one that I could find that qualifies.
I want to show people here again just the size of this storm. 30 years ago this week, the blizzard of 1996, and you can see how it reached all along the eastern seaboard. This, of course, is just color-enhanced IR, so it's not necessarily telling us the type of precipitation, but it's given us an idea of just how much moisture was being kind of brought up all along the eastern seaboard, and I'm sure that helped with those overachieving snow totals.
Right. Keep in mind that when you're looking at infrared satellite imagery, you're not looking at a picture of clouds. You're looking at a picture of temperatures. The brighter stuff is colder. The bright yellow and red stuff is colder than the blues and the grays, and especially the dark grays. So what you're actually looking at is a map of temperatures, but you can infer where the clouds are usually because where it's really cold, what you're probably seeing are clouds that are high up where it's really cold, like 40 below, or like 30,000 feet up. So that's where the most intense thunderstorms are and where the most substantial precipitation is. However, it's easy to get fooled. Like, for example, even in this picture, look up over the upper Midwest. over Minnesota and the Dakotas. You see some of those bright colors there, but that does not look to be clouds. That's just cold ground being picked up by the sensor in the weather satellite, where it probably was way below zero. I imagine around 20, maybe 30 below in those areas.
Yeah, we can show the snow totals here again. I don't know if that is updated on the screen or not. I feel like my screen sharing is also frozen tonight, so I'll try to pop this up on the screen one more time to show folks again just the amount of total snow that fell here between January 6th and January 8th of 1996, all the way from Boston down to the Carolinas and even into northern Georgia and northern Alabama down there, with
Right.
at least a dusting of snow. But I'm sure major cities, New York, DC, Philly, they really got hammered with over 30 inches of snow. I mean, that is just feet of snow that fell, and looks even like Boone and Blowing Rock were dealing with at least 1, if not 2 feet of snow. What a remarkable storm.
It sure is. And snow was not the only story with this. Parts of North Carolina and South Carolina saw sleet and freezing rain as well. There was a band there from, I guess, just south and east of Raleigh, southwestward to the southern part of the Charlotte metro area, and then into upstate and northern Midlands and upper CSRA part of South Carolina that saw up to a 1/4 inch of ice accretion. And that is not great when that happens, because that's when you start seeing trees and power lines coming down and people's power going out, and bridges and overpasses especially getting really slit.
Yeah, I mean, the ice is, I think, one of those things we often overlook in the public conversation, because everyone gets really excited about snow, but those impacts with ice doesn't take a whole lot to start causing a problem. Another anniversary this week, this one from Sam Walker. It's been 8 years since snow out there on the Outer Banks. In 2018, a strong low pressure, he writes, an extended a period of Atlantic air dropped a layer of freezing rain, followed by heavy snow and blizzard conditions out there on the Outer Banks of North Carolina, with top winds of 77 miles an hour and upwards of 4 inches of snow. He's got a map out here from the National Weather Service, January 4th, 2018, showing snow amounts. I see a 7.5 might be the largest number on this map as you make your way towards that I-95 corridor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And here's a statewide map from the Climate Office. Yeah, 6+ inches there in eastern North Carolina, with trace amounts all the way back into portions of the Piedmont and the Greensboro area, just shy of Charlotte. How often it does seem like we get gypped in these things. But here's some of Sam's video that he took 8 years ago. Man, what a far cry from this warm start to January to be looking back, Frank, at these actual winters.
Right. Yeah, that is not what you expect to see when you are showing a video of the Outer Banks. You don't typically think that, oh, there's going to be snow out there, but yeah, it does. It snows out there sometimes.
Yeah, cool stuff. Indeed. All right, we're going to talk a little bit about ways that you can support the Carolina Weather Group. We still have for sale our beanies, because it is going to get cold again. We do still have winter, so if you want to support the Carolina Weather Group and have a really nice way to keep your head warm, we have a QR code on the screen for you right now, or you can scan it in the description of wherever you're watching or listening to this week's episode. You can get these beanies, which we still have on discount, and also it's flat rate pricing from the Carolina Weather Group e-store. So no matter how many items you put into that order, you're going to pay the same amount. So if you want to get yourself a fleece, kind of like the one I'm wearing right on in here, which is very warm, you can go ahead and add that to your order and browse other items from our Carolina Weather Group e-store. I've been talking about it for a while, Frank, but I actually have your fleece and a beanie in a shipping box, and maybe in the next day or two, by the time we do this show next week, I think you'll have it.
I hope so, because it looks like we're going to turn colder.
We are going to turn colder. So this first full week of January, it's the 7th now. By the time we're talking to everybody on the 14th, we're going to be back to winter, aren't we?
Looks that way. So rather interesting weather pattern actually setting up around the middle of the month here. It looks like we're going to end up with a situation where there's a big ridge out west for a while, and a big trough in the eastern part of the country, and that's the situation where winter storm shenanigans can happen in the Carolinas.
Is that what's on your screen share right now?
Well, the computer models are here. If you want to bring my screen share back up, we'll show it to you.
But I wanted to make sure I had it right.
Okay. So this is the European model. I showed it a few minutes ago. This is the Panthers-Rams ball game time step here. Let's go on into the future. Behind the front, causing that colder air does return to the Carolinas. Looks like a blustery and much chillier day for your Sunday coming in behind that. And then, again, we're going back into winter for a while now. This first cold wave kind of eases for a few days during next week, but then another cold front comes through around the middle of next week, and that's when things start to get interesting. The cold air comes in. You can see this particular model, the Euro, shows a storm passing by offshore. The models, when they have an error, they tend to be too far south with these kind of things. So that's making me go, They think emoji here for that one. So that's something we'll have to keep an eye on. And then another storm system, Alberta Clipper system, kind of moves through the Great Lakes, trails another cold front through around the 17th and 18th, and then another storm rides along that. Ooh, look what it's doing. It's causing snow in much of North Carolina and upstate South Carolina. By the way, it's just a computer model. I'm not saying this is going to happen.
Not a forecast.
Computer models are often wrong. Actually, they're wrong almost always wrong.
Especially 276 hours into the future.
Yeah, especially more than 10 days out. But the guidance is still useful because it shows we're going to be in a favorable, I won't say favorable weather pattern, a weather pattern where a winter storm in the Carolinas is a realistic possibility. That's probably the best way to put it. That's the useful information we get out of the model. Now, the GFS, which is, again, less believable, especially when you get all the way out, it still shows the same weather pattern. Again, we're out to the 15th here, and it shows that next cold snap coming in, the second one, and that storm passing by offshore. We get cold for a couple days, and then later in the run, we go out to the 20th here, and there it's got a winter storm here. A kind of one of these long, grinding 2014-ish winter storms. South Carolinians remember that one, except for the newcomers. Long grinding situation where it ends up being a lot of ice. We hope it's wrong. It probably is wrong, at least about the character or the timing or something. Maybe everything. Maybe it's 70 degrees instead. Again, this is 16 days out. But again, the useful information we get from the models at this range is that it looks like there's going to be a cold stretch during the middle of the month, and we're going to be in a weather pattern that is conducive to a winter storm happening. That doesn't mean it's going to happen. It just means that it's a realistic possibility one can happen.
I do remember 2014. I think that would have been my first or second winter here. And I thought, oh, wow, they get winter here. And Sometimes we get winter here.
Sometimes we get 3 years without any winter here in South Carolina.
I know.
But then we have years where we get 2 or 3 snowstorms or winter storms in South Carolina. So it's happened.
It's happened. So, okay, well, we'll watch the pattern. And remember, the cold air needs to get here before the precip. That is kind of the key to making any
the cold
chance of snow happen.
It has to, not only does it have to get here before or at the same time. At the same time is best. When you have the good cold air arrive like 3 hours before the moisture gets here. But the other thing is the storm that's bringing the moisture can't lollygag around back in Texas too long.
Yep.
If it does, then the cold air gets stale and we don't get a winter storm. We get 33 and rain,
which is the worst.
An ice storm.
That is the worst. Okay, because it's cold.
Yeah, I think the general consensus among everybody is that 33 degrees and rain is the worst possible weather.
You're disappointed?
I disagree. I think 32 or less in rain is worse, but
I mean, if it's going to be cold, give me snow. If it's going to be cold and you're going to give me rain, I'm disappointed. I'm wet. It's gross. Bleh. Bleh.
I'm fine if it snows as long as it melts within a few days.
Oh, yeah, because then it goes from being pretty to not pretty.
Then it just gets aggravating when it hangs around. Let me tell you about 1988. No, we're only doing one story time.
It's only one story. We're only budgeted one story time animation per show, despite
Although
the fact,
I should have thought about it. It's the anniversary of that storm too.
Which one? 88?
Yeah.
Do you want to think about it?
Maybe we should. Where did I put that? Somewhere or another, I will find that.
Of course, what's nice about 96 is it was an even 30 years ago. We like those milestone ones. 88, that's rough math, man. That's like, I don't know.
Yeah, that was started January 7th of 88 and ended later. And man, why is it suddenly so hard? Just because I need it right now, it's so hard to find that the PDF to that study that GSP staff at the time did on that storm. They had a great map in it.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, you find that, and if you find it, we'll come back to it.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to. There it is.
All right.
There it is. It's in the Wikipedia entry on the storm. So.
Oh.
So there we go.
Wow.
So there it is.
Is that hand drawn?
Yeah, it was. Looks like it anyway. But there it is. And yeah, there was a foot in Rock Hill where I lived, which is more toward the Catawba, Leslie area of York County, South Carolina. That they only had like 8 there. I had 9, if I remember correctly. Some sleet mixed in to hold the totals down. But where my parents are now, over in Polk County, they had it's like 16 and a half inches. But here's the thing about this storm. Not only did we get a bunch of snow, we had Arctic cold for 10 days behind it. This snow didn't go anywhere. The Rock Hill School District had 13 consecutive calendar days of no school.
I wonder if that's the record. Could that be the record?
Probably. Right. Our first day back, our ROT instructor, Colonel Stan Lott, the first thing he said when class started was, "I hope you enjoyed your spring break, kids."
Right, because we got to start eating these days out of someplace.
That's right, and he was right, because not only did our spring break get completely blown up, we were in school till the 15th of June.
Wow, that's like northern school calendar. Take it from me. Wowzers. Well, that's if you're a snow lover, then we can only hope for you that we maybe get some snow here sooner rather than later. We shall see.
Yeah.
I got to go back up to the mountains and maybe partake in some skiing, or we're big fans of tubing.
That's fun. Yeah. I've done that out west a couple times.
Out west? You can go a lot closer than out west.
Many, many years ago, I was married to a woman who was from Tempe, Arizona, and we would go out and visit her family at Christmas every now and then. And once we went up to Flagstaff, which is at 7,000 feet, and we went tubing up there, and it was a blast. We had fun.
That is pretty good stuff. I just remembered that we're going to hear from Scotty Powell in this episode. Who sent us a video. So I'm gonna get that uploaded here, so we can hear from our good friend Scotty down there in Myrtle Beach. No stranger to the mountains, having grown up in Morganton. So we'll hear from him in a minute about something pretty remarkable they found there in his hometown of Morganton. But I wanted to talk about another anniversary, Frank. It's been 1 year since the fires in California, and recovery efforts there are still ongoing. But it is also coming up on a time of year where here in the Carolinas, we need to think about fire danger, believe it or not. It doesn't feel like something you got to think about with cold temperatures outside, but the significant wildland fire potential outlook here for January has much of both North and South Carolina, essentially anyone but the coast, in an above normal risk of seeing wildfires this time of year. We've seen some prescribed burns just this week, and then that threat kind of expands into all of the Carolinas, not only for February, but also for March and right on into April, where it then transitions out there towards the coast. I mean, I guess we could see a fire really any time of year where we have the right weather conditions, but it doesn't feel natural to think about winter and wildfires, but here in the Carolinas, they go hand in hand.
Well, this is the time of year where you kind of set the stage for a bad wildfire season, and we're kind of setting it. We're in a drought, both North and South Carolina, almost all of North Carolina, and a good bit of South Carolina too. Got the drought monitors on my screen share there, James. So much of South Carolina is in the short-term drought, and there's North Carolina, which again more than half of North Carolina, about 60% is in a drought, and a lot of the rest abnormally dry. There's a little sliver of D2 severe drought there and the far west. But it's been dry, and especially the last 30 days, there's been very little rain. I've had, I think, 27 hundredths at my house here near Gaston, South Carolina. We need some rain, and if we don't get some rain soon, well, then the ground's going to still be dry by the time we get to the springtime, when it starts warming up and sometimes gets windy. And if we get a dry, windy day in the springtime when everything's already dry, the vegetation's dried out because it hasn't rained much all winter long.
Right.
That's your ingredients for a wildfire risk.
Yeah, some bad stuff can happen there, and we will need to keep a close eye on that. But again, 1 year since those big California fires, and so our thoughts are with all those folks out there who are still recovering, and let's hope we don't see any fires ourselves. Western North Carolina is, of course, Frank, still recovering from Helene, and we have all of that storm damage on the ground, which is going to be a factor if we do get into any big wildfires. But Scotty Powell posted about this week. This is pretty remarkable. As part of those ongoing cleanup efforts there in his hometown in Western North Carolina, they found this. This is a little statue of baby Jesus, kind of right there in a debris pile found right here during this holiday season. He talks a little bit about this. Scotty does in a video he sent over to us here on the Carolina Weather Group, so we could hear some of his thoughts on this. And let's take a listen to. Hopefully this plays here. Let's see if I can get this to play so we can hear Scotty.
Hey all, Happy New Year to everyone. As you know, I'm meteorologist Scotty Powell here at WBTW, also here on the Carolina Weather Group, and I just wanted to say a quick hello to everyone. My schedule's kind of been busy, so it's been kind of hard to get on Wednesday night shows, but I'm still around and still want to keep in contact with all of you who have continued to follow the Carolina Weather Group. So I really appreciate that. And hopefully from time to time, Wednesdays will allow me to join James and Frank and everyone else there on the show to be able to kind of give you a perspective of what's going on across the Grand Strand. But for this video purpose, I just want to tell you or talk to you a little bit about what happened in my hometown back in Morganton. We all know we are still seeing the recovery efforts from Hurricane Helene across Western North Carolina, and a unique story developed out of Morganton this week, and where we saw the recovery efforts continue. The Catawba River Meadows area, the Catawba River Park, the Greenway in Morganton is a very beautiful spot, but it was ravaged and devastated by the floods from Hurricane Helene because the Catawba River is right there. And the Catawba River actually starts up towards Lake James and kind of flows through Morganton into Hickory with Lake Hickory, and then as it flows into the Lake Norman area, and then eventually into South Carolina, and eventually out to sea here in South Carolina. But from that, the floodwaters created a lot of devastation, a lot of damage in the Catawba Meadows area. And this is where we see a lot of several baseball parks, but also storage units for the city of Morganton and the recreation department. We all know that each and every city throughout the holidays celebrates by displaying Christmas lights and things like that. So Catawba Meadows is one of those holding areas where they hold decorations and stuff from year to year. And it was discovered last year, the nativity scene, baby Jesus, was swept away from the floodwaters there at Catawba Meadows. Well, doing some cleanup around the greenway, baby Jesus was found in a debris pile. And so the workers there with the city of Morganton began to remove all the debris, and they found the missing piece from the manger scene, and that was baby Jesus. And a great reminder to know that, hey, even through the toughest of storms, Jesus is still there with us all. And so it was really neat and a really cool story. You can see some photos of that baby Jesus being revamped and cleaned up, and will be able for the next Christmas season in the manger. So everyone, I hope you have a great start to your new year. Hopefully I can join you guys really soon, but I just want to kind of give you a cool story from my hometown as they recover from Hurricane Helene.
All right, we're glad Scotty was able to share that with us. You can see the picture on your screen here, Frank. Quite the discovery and quite the reminder that the ongoing Helene recovery is still active.
Yeah, it looks like baby Jesus will clean up pretty nicely and go right back into service there. Pretty impressive.
Good stuff, and what a time of year for them to make that discovery. And we appreciate Scotty bringing that to us. And of course, you can catch him there on WBTW in Myrtle Beach and right here on the Carolina Weather Group. Frank, should we go to Too Many Tabs? Is it time?
Yes, Too Many Tabs time.
There it is. Too Many Tabs, the part of the show where we just have so many things to tell you. We're just literally going to go through all those tabs we have up on our screen, starting with this message from Frank's friends at the South Carolina Forestry Commission. Hey, if you have a Bradford pear, I do, but I live in the wrong state. If you have a Bradford pear and you live in South Carolina and you're thinking, man, I got to get rid of this really obnoxious tree that might fall over at any time you look at it. It's funny. Great opportunity here. The Bradford Pear Bounty Program is fast approaching with dates upcoming in Mount Pleasant, Columbia, and Greenville. You take down the Bradford pear and you get a free native replacement tree or trees in exchange for the removal of that pesky invasive Bradford pear, up to 5 total per person, Frank.
Yep, and they're an invasive species in South Carolina, so Forestry Commission wants to get rid of them. I don't blame them. When I lived in Pennsylvania, the landlord had one of those things in the backyard, which for about 4 days of the year was really beautiful. And the rest of the year, it was a real pain in the butt because it was constantly dropping things and those little berries that they make onto my deck. And I had to clean that off, and then I'd have to scrub and/or power wash the deck to get it clean. And it was really aggravating. So I'm glad I don't have to put up with that thing anymore.
I've got 3. So North Carolina, whenever you're ready, let's do this. Let's do this thing. Speaking of things we want to do, Artemis 2, we think is fast approaching. We think NASA's kind of being tight-lipped on this whole thing, but based on information available to us, NASA looks like they might be targeting a launch window from February 5th through 11th for Artemis 2, our first crewed mission, our first lunar crewed mission since the Apollo program. And this will take 4 astronauts, including one from North Carolina, around the moon. This is still kind of a test mission before putting boots back on the moon. NASA will be launching from Kennedy Space Center in Florida as soon as February 5th, we think. If it doesn't happen in February, we think we'll get a couple dates at the beginning of March. If that doesn't happen, we think we'll get a couple dates at the beginning of April. They haven't actually released a schedule, so your guess is as good as mine. But NASA did say over the weekend that they intend to roll out Artemis from the VAB to the launch pad in January. And so if that happens, then presumably they're shooting for this February date. We shall see, Frank, but that would be real exciting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it sure would.
So looking forward to that, and looking forward to maybe by the time we see you next week here in the Carolina Weather Group, I can only hope and pray that NASA starts communicating with us, because it's starting to get a little frustrating.
Right.
Just a little. Hello? Is this thing on?
That's right.
Hello?
Yeah,
what do you got next for us, Frank?
Well, while you were talking about that, guess what I found?
Pictures of the one day a year where the Bradford pear looks nice.
Yes, the North Carolina has a Bradford pear bounty too. So,
yeah, but
is
you want
to get rid of those Bradford pears? Yes, this was updated October 30th, so it's active. I'm not sure how it works in either state, but it looks like at least in North Carolina you have to cut the tree down yourself or have it cut down
and then hand deliver it to Raleigh. No, I'm just kidding.
No, just for be able to provide documentation that you had the tree cut down and removed.
I looked at a different website earlier today trying to research exactly this, and it said check back soon. So maybe there's a different, but so this was updated October 30th of 2025.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, there it is right there, October 30th, 2025. This is the North Carolina State Extension.
Okay.
And they're teamed up with the North Carolina Forest Service, North Carolina Urban Forest Council, and the North Carolina Wildlife Federation to provide the Bradford pear bounty in North Carolina.
Okay, well, I got 3. So let's go. Because I'm afraid it's going to fall. I've seen them on my street just randomly go. Because we thought these were a good idea in the, 80s? These Bradford
You got a chainsaw? It'll be interesting to know what documentation they need to prove that you've taken the tree down or had it removed. I mean, if you have a professional take them down, yeah, you could just show them the paperwork, the receipt from that. But that costs a lot of money, I think. You'd probably be spending for 3 of them. You might spend $1,000 on that. So
probably $1,000 per tree. Probably.
Yeah. So when you can just take the chainsaw out there and get rid of it yourself, but then what proof do you have that you did it?
Oh, I don't know, the injuries that I will have from having done it.
Yeah. And then you also have to dig up the stumps. I can tell you from experience that is one of the least fun things you will ever do.
That's bad. We had some big pine trees taken out, and that was also like $1,000 a tree, which probably could have been worse because those pine trees were tall. But
yeah,
I was afraid
they were going to fall. I have a pine tree in my backyard that I'm afraid to cut down myself because it's the one tree in my yard that's close enough to land on my house when it comes down. I had
like 8 of them.
Yeah, so I would like to get rid of it. I was hoping that a nice windstorm would come along and blow it onto the spa that was included with this house that doesn't work, and I need to get removed. And it would be nice to have just one good gust of wind take them both out.
Yeah, there we go. One and done. Perfect. Yeah, we had the trees taken out, luckily before Helene, which was good because I could rest a little easier knowing there weren't 8 pines in my backyard dancing around. Yeah. My next tab is something that I think you know a little something about.
Oh, yeah. The 2025 South Carolina Weather and Climate Year in Review. That's coming up on January 13th. That is this coming Tuesday.
Wow. Okay, so how do you join this bad boy?
It's done by Microsoft Teams. That little electronic flyer that you see there in that image on X shows you how to get in. And in there, you will hear my boss, Dr. Hope Bazell, is the South Carolina state climatologist, and the one and only lovely and gracious Melissa Griffin, best coworker of all time. Talk about the impactful weather and climate events in South Carolina through 2025.
Good stuff. That's good stuff. We've retweeted this and reposted it on the socials, so people don't have to write down meeting passcodes right now while they're watching us on YouTube or the likes. But that's good stuff. We'll close the books on 2025, and you guys always have great insights. A little bit of what you've seen tonight with Frank's Storytime is that insight and analysis. He does at his day job. So we're looking forward to heering from the Climate Office about 2025. That's good stuff.
Yep, I'm not scheduled to speak, but there are definitely some things that I have contributed to that you'll hear Hope and Melissa talk about.
Good stuff. My last one, I don't actually have on the screen, but the city of Charlotte said that 2025, perfect air quality. We didn't have to worry about wildfire smoke or too much air pollution. I want to say that it was like the first year ever that they had a perfect air quality score here in the city of Charlotte. So keep it up, guys. We didn't have any of that pesky Canadian wildfire smoke, I suppose. Good job.
Golf clap.
Golf clap. Golf clap. I think that's all I got. I'll check chat for those of you watching live with us on Facebook and YouTube. Jay says, did you say Twitter or X? You know, I'm coming around to the X thing, and I'll tell you why I'm coming around to the X thing. Because I think it's disparaging to Twitter's legacy to call it Twitter.
Well, the way I see it, I when the change occurred and Elon decided to call it X, I decided there's no way I'm ever going to call this thing X. No way. But
I mean,
let's be honest,
it
has changed enough to the point that it's really not the same as Twitter.
That's what I mean.
For better or for worse, it's just not the same as it was.
Yeah.
So I'm starting to call it X now and going back on that resolution because it's just a different place now.
Yeah. That's my thought, too. That's what I got. That's all she wrote, I think.
Yeah, I'm done.
January
I got
7th. Mm-hmm. That's all I got for this January 7th, 2026. But I have to check because last year I'd hang up the show before Frank could finish his thoughts. And my New Year's resolution is not to hang up on Frank before he has a chance to finish his thoughts.
Okay, I'm done. You may roll the closing theme now.
Or I could just awkwardly make us sit here for 10 more minutes. No, that's okay.
And I stare into the camera for 10 minutes without looking away.
I'm going to go ahead and spare everybody and roll the open. But I do hope you join us next week when Frank will be blinking again here on the Carolina Weather. All right, bye.